All right, listen up, Spuds. This is Zap Brannigan, master of time, space, and everything else in between. And, oh yeah, winner of this year's Modesty Award. You're listening to You Suck. What's the difference with Al and Tom? Your one stop for this sort of thing.
Hello, guys. Oh, the wrong way around. That's weird. I'm usually that side.
Yeah, weird.
It's weird, right?
I don't know.
Hey, guys.
I want to be.
How's it go?
I want to be first for once. I was like, "This is
What, then?
Tom's show."
Bring us in. Bring us in. You do it. You be me, and I'll be you. There we go.
Everyone, this is the show that is us. I'm Alex Whiteley.
And I'm Tom Bruno, eh?
Yeah. Why'd you throw that in there? That is so
super
rude.
offensive. Just, It
is. It is. To our guest especially. What is wrong with you, sir? My goodness.
Welcome to the show, guys. Thank you for joining us. And I hope you guys have had a great week. Joining us on the show today, we have an amazing young actress. That's I've watched a movie recently, and I can't wait to talk to her about it and her career. Welcome to the show from Canada, Teneisha Collins. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you both for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like one of those fake things, right? Have you always lived in Canada, Teneisha?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Montreal with a little bit in New York, but pretty much Montreal.
Oh, so you and me, dude. You and me. So it's like your home and native land, baby.
Exactly.
I don't even know where I literally just woke up like 10 seconds ago, so I was like, oh, my brain's like kind of sort of almost there, but not quite almost there. I'm well, so we were talking about it beforehand, and I expressed the fact, the same thing I always do whenever we speak to someone from Canada, that I live in Vermont. We're right across the border from one another. You were explaining that you actually dug Vermont. You were calling it the US Canada, Canadian. What were your words exactly?
It's basically another province, like people in Vermont are like, I've been to Vermont, so chill, everybody's nice. You guys have maple syrup that's like on par with Canadian maple syrup, and I don't use that term lightly. It's pretty good. Vermont is totally Canada. You guys even sometimes have a little bit of the Canadian accent, more than we have in Montreal, to be honest.
I've adopted it just because, I live directly across the border, where where you can enter Canada, Newport,
Canada
entrances, Canada. You can enter your Canada. I live right on the border town. Like literally, if I threw a rock too hard, it's a terroristic act because it would cross the border, and they'd be like, "Hey," I'm like, "Sorry," but I've adopted a little bit of it, especially because most people I commune with, I talk with, they're all Canadian as well. But I'm also from New York. I was born in New York. That's where I was originally from. Where in New York? I'm guessing the city. That's where everybody is.
Yeah. My dad used to live in New York, and he, made his way through the different neighborhoods. And like every good New Yorker, when you get successful, he moved to Connecticut.
It's so true. It's so true.
So I spent some of my childhood summers in the city, between Manhattan, Brooklyn, the Bronx, and then Stamford, Connecticut, which I really thought was really beautiful. And as a teenager, I was like, this is the headquarters of WWE, so it's even cooler.
It's so funny. Okay, so like my middle child, I have 3 kids. And unlike Alex, who's got 30 kids or something, I don't know how many kids. He's got so many kids. But they're all first of all, they're all amazing kids. Let me just throw that out there. But so my middle kid, he's really been into this wrestling game. He plays the PlayStation. He's very game oriented. All the stuff that kids are. But he's been into WWE wrestling, and I was for a hot second when I don't know, I was like 9 or 10 or something, and I kind of dug it, kind of didn't. That was when The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin, all these big huge names were wrestling, and now he's into it. So I feel like if he's really into this whole thing, he's mimicking moves, all that type of jazz, that I should bring him to a wrestling match. And it's funny that you mentioned that Connecticut is the home of WWE, because I noticed that 90% of the matches are being played there. I'm like, why are all of them being done in Connecticut? What a random place to pick. It's kind of like a little not Jersey, not New York, but Connecticut. One of the original 13. So hey, fuck me, right?
So you want to hear a really funny WWE related story? So in high school, I was very much the girly girl, totally. Like my stepdad used to take
Me too. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, of course. And I was like princess. Like, I was like a rough and tumble princess, but just because I was clumsy, like I was very much like girly girl. My dad used to take like our neighbor's kid to WWE just because he didn't have a son at the time. But in high school, I think like around like 13 or 14, I got a crush on a boy who really liked wrestling. So I'm like, let me check out this wrestling thing that I used to hate because my sister loved it and I really liked it. And I started watching with my grandmother and she's like, oh, like The Rock came on the screen. And she's like, that's your cousin. My grandmother is notorious for lying. If she doesn't know the answer, she'll make it up. Like I asked her when I was, just for context, I asked her when I was younger, like 8, like, why do we not eat red meat? Why do we eat fish on Good Friday? And with a very straight face, full on serious, was just like, well, Teneisha, in the days of Jesus and Moses, cows weren't invented yet. Of course, when she told me that The Rock was my cousin, I took it with a grain of salt, and I was like, "This is total BS." But she went on. She's like, "Yeah, like his dad was Rocky Johnson," and she told me like basically his whole life story. But like, we didn't really have the ability to Google as easily as we do now. So like, I was like, she really made up an elaborate story. And I go to school and I tell the guys the story, and they were just like, "No, like this is the true story. This is like Rock's story. Like you're definitely his cousin." And they would call me the Pebble. Because I was so little. So my nickname was the Pebble, and it was like, do you smell what the Pebble's cooking? And
nice. We
didn't really know, like, and finally, like, we deciphered how we're not officially related, but he's my cousin's stepbrother. So, there is kind of a familiar relationship, but like, we're not at all blood relatives. Like my grandmother thought, like we had to really speak to my cousin and get the whole little family tree. That's a little confusing still, but.
Enough for free tickets every now and again? Yo. I mean, related.
I'm dying to work with The Rock, so I can be like, hey, like we're almost cousins, like, and I can name all of his, relatives that are indirectly related to me. But he's not the kind of like, I have zero connection with him, right? Like he's not gonna show up at my wedding at this stage if I ever were to get married,
Unless he did. In which case you're like, whoa, grandma was right. And he's like, of course he was.
She wasn't lying. She just didn't know the full story. So yeah, I was the Pebble throughout high school. Do you smell what the Pebble's cooking?
I love that so much. I don't have any famous people. Oh, actually, that's not true. I'm related to a mobster. That's like my claim to fame. I was like, I have a mobster.
Lobster?
Lobsters. I'm related to crustaceans and many hard shell creatures. In Vermont, totally landlocked, but whatever, it's fine. Why would we not be named as a lobster? No, a mobster, Alex. A mobster with an M. That you should believe me because his name was Angelo Bruno, and he was the mafia don in Philadelphia from like 1970 to like 1980. He was shot in the face with a shotgun. So yeah, everything ends out well for the.
What was his name again?
Angelo Bruno.
Doesn't matter what his name is.
Wow. Wait till my family in Jersey hears about this. They're gonna be like, "What'd you say?" with some bats and stuff. They're beating you up. It's gonna be amazing. I'll be like, get him. Oh my goodness!
Oh
you with your
careful what you say around town.
Dude, friggin', I know a person that's related to The Rock, so you better like calm your fucking giblets because she can smell what you're cooking or something. I don't know, dude. Fucking, that is so. I think like older people always do that, right? They're like. They think everyone's very, very connected in one way, shape, or form. So like if you like my grandma, I have a cousin that's like my sixth cousin, and my grandmother would speak about her as if she was my first cousin. I'm like, no, but if you look at the family line, she's like 6th or 7th down. We're barely related. She's like, no, that's your cousin. That's the way it is. And if you acted as anything but, you were basically ostracized from the family. So I can imagine why your grandmother would do that. But also, I find it very funny that your grandma thinks that cows are, or at least lie that cows are invented.
I believe it. Like it's just like I'm just like, oh my god. But also we're from Nova Scotia, and like original Black Canadians in Nova Scotia. A lot of us are related, and like The Rock's mom, like The Rock is from his father's from Nova Scotia. So I think that probably she just thought that we were actually blood relatives because a lot of us are related in some way, shape, or form. Like if you're from anywhere in Nova Scotia, and at this stage, if you're Black, white, or somewhere in between, I might be related to you. Wow. So she probably actually believed that one, and that was one that like she was somewhat right.
Interestingly enough, especially Nova Scotia, is Alex, you watched Turn a little bit, right? Did you watch that show that
No.
I was talking about? Watch it. Okay, well, regardless, the whole reason I bring it up. That's fine. I barely watch the stuff he tells me to watch, so we're very even on that. There's this gentleman in the show who's like a real bastard. He's a real mean dude. He's a British soldier named John Simcoe, and like throughout the entire show, you're just like, I wish this guy would die. He's such an asshole. Blah blah. And then at the very end, they kind of give you a where did they go type of scenario.
Mhm.
John Simcoe went up to Canada, and he became like this provincial like mayor or something along those lines. He was one of the first ones to abolish slavery up in Canada, and I think it was in Nova Scotia. Is that a historical figure that you're familiar with?
I mean, look, I'm born. Like my family's originally from Nova Scotia. I'm born and raised in Montreal, but Nova Scotia was the main portal of the Underground Railroad. So
yes.
I totally would. That makes sense. That makes total sense.
It's weird to think like places like this have like just such deep history that you never assume would be there, because I mean, like when you think about the Underground Railroad, Nova Scotia, I mean, unless of course you who's actually familiar with the history of it. Me personally, be like, Tom, what's the connection between Nova Scotia and the Underground Railroad? I'd be like, I don't know, and I think that's like everyone's answer.
Yeah.
That's very
it's like I'm very fortunate that I have a lot of family members who've done their research. Some of them are historians or who work for like the government, so they have access to special archives. So I can trace a lot of my family history back in this country, up to like 300 something years ago, and even some in the States as well, which is so rare for anybody, but especially a person of color.
Absolutely.
See, I'm completely different. I'm even though like I know where my family is, I know where they are, but I've got a guy's surname who doesn't mean anything to me anymore. He's my stepdad, who isn't a part of my family anymore. Don't really like him, but I've got his name because I grew up as Whiteley, right? That's just who I've always been. So I've never changed my name back. I've never gone like to my original name, because when it comes to things like that, I've never really been like, I am who I am, right? But then I think about my kids. And then the missed opportunity that I had, I married a Colombian lady. I could have changed my name to Sanchez. That would have been amazing. Alex Sanchez. I regret it so much. And you speak about cousins. Whenever we go to Colombia, right? Oh my God, the cousins. They come out the woodwork. They're everywhere. We're going to go see this person. We're going to say, oh, that's my cousin too. That's my second. Oh, big family. Big family.
Are you related to this whole country, Cass? She's like, yeah, pretty much. You're like, oh, okay, cool. This is interesting.
And speaking of working with The Rock, you're kind of halfway there already, I feel, because
I'm 1 degree away. 1 degree away from The Rock. From my family.
1 degree away.
From a co-star. So I have 2 different avenues to get to The Rock if I want to directly.
Amazing, because if you guys have watched movies, if you know like current pop culture, you'll know that The Rock has got a very small, cramped twin that follows him around everywhere, and that's Kevin Hart, right?
Oh my God, their bromance is like, it's the funniest thing ever. Their bromance.
I love it.
They prank each other, they tease each other, they love each other so much, but it's so funny to see like what they get into and how they make fun of each other and how they just like jab at each other. One
of the best things I ever saw was when they were on each other's Instagrams, when one was behind the other, like, yeah, I'm on my Instagram there. And he said, will you get out my Instagram? It's amazing.
Do you think they're really missing out on something? Because if it like, is everyone familiar with the movie Twins? It came out.
Yeah, of course.
Yes. Don't you think they're kind of missing out on something by having The Rock and Kevin Hart like redo
amazing.
Twins? Like, dude, it'd be great, right? Like they already have like the chemistry and obviously the bromance, as you were so clearly stating before. They're missing out on a real opportunity to make a fantastic movie, I would imagine.
I think you're bloody heathen for bringing it up, because I feel like there's too many remakes being made. There's too many I like a good remake, but I'm really like, stop for a sec, make something original. And like, there have been some things being made that are originally brilliant, like Future Man, for example. I was just reading about now, like you were in Teneisha. That was amazing, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. So Future Man was a show, and like I can say this because I'm only in the 3rd season. It is one of the funniest shows that nobody has seen.
I saw actually some of it because it's Last Starfighter-esque, and I remember seeing that in Seth Rogan production.
Seth Rogan's an executive producer, and he's in the 3rd season. But it's Joshua Hutcherson and Eliza Coupe and Derek Wilson, and it's like I remember I knew nothing about this show whatsoever. I just knew there was a show filming in Montreal, and I had an audition, and I was shooting another movie with Kevin Hart at the time. But I was just like, let me check out an episode of this show to kind of see where my character fits in the world, and see how it is. And I watched an episode, and I was like,
dog. It must be that little dog we heard so much about. It's like, sorry, stop that. And you're like, get away, dog.
No, that was totally me. That was
He's just like barking on the side. She's like, woof, woof. Be like, stop it. I'm trying to record. I gotta go, guys. This dog's going nuts. I can't keep doing the show. Sorry.
No, actually, she's humping a toy. Like right now.
Yeah.
Like, my female dog is humping a toy right now. So she's occupied.
Dominance. She's like, you think Snoopy's the real dog in this house? And you should look at me. And you're just like, this is so inappropriate.
Top dog. Okay, rewind. So I was like, let me just check out this show to see where I fit. I thought it was effing hilarious. It's not a show to watch with any children whatsoever. It is very raunchy, very graphic. But I couldn't figure out where I fit in it because my character is like in the year 3419. So I just kept watching. And, between my first audition and the time that I had, a producer session a few days later, I had binged watched the first 2 seasons. And I was just like, I don't care what I need to do to be on this show. I don't care what role you give me, but I need to be on this show. It's genuinely hilarious because they make fun of everyone. Like nobody's safe, including yourself. Like everybody gets made fun of. It's totally over the top. There's all these. It's a sci-fi comedy, so every season has like a different vibe to it. One is like a Back to the Future vibe and different things like that. There's all these Easter eggs. And I have to say that like I've never laughed out loud as much as I have reading each script of the 3rd season. And I was actually very, very sad that it ended. But I definitely, and like I said, I can say this because I'm only in season 3, like definitely recommend watching the show. Because the people who do watch it has like a really big cult following, and it is effing hilarious.
Well, it's because it's good. It's good. And Teneisha, you can say fuck on here. Trust me, I do it all the time. I just start saying swears for no reason. In front of doctors, even that we'll have some very distinguished guests, much like yourself. I'm like, this is fucking bullshit, right? And House is like, Tom, PhD. I'm like, yeah, PhD, bro. And he's like, no, that person has a PhD. Shut your mouth. So
then I have to write an email to TV guest, but like, I am very, very sorry.
I'm so sorry.
I kind of fluctuate. Like, I'll either I used to never swear. I went to an all-girls Catholic school, then I switched to like a co-ed school and nothing changed. Like people would make fun of me because I would be like, shoot, heck, So it's like I'll drop like the ultimate swear words just like randomly, usually in front of my parents. But then at the same time, I'll be like, what the fudge? I got made fun of the other day because I was like, oh, it's just so fudging hilarious. And people are like, you just say fudge? So I kind of go on both ends of the spectrum. It's like Martha Stewart. She's either in jail or she's baking cookies. I'm either saying fuck, or like, or what the fudge.
I swear in front of my parents just because I can, because I'm an adult. I like to see what I can get away with now. Just really test those waters. Because as a kid, right now, I'll just swear. No swearing. Like, how come you could swear, but I can't? So as an adult with like 3 kids, a mortgage payment, all that type of stuff, I'm like, hey, what's up, Dad? How the fuck you doing? He's I guess fine. I mean, you have to be so aggro. Jeez. I'm like, all right, cool. Nice to fucking see you. That's kind of how I do it.
I work at a prison to do. It's a closed prison, and we do prison breaks. That's why I got a dollar sign on my ear on these fake tattoos. Sure. I do. Yeah. So yesterday we did it. We had a group come through, and it was a massive corporate thing. They work for Fred Perry, clothing brand, and they came in anyway, and they were like, yeah. You can swear, but only a little bit. And now my character is up in your grill, kind of swearing all the time. So I had to like rein it in. And I was trying to find clever ways, like you're saying, like, oh, shoot. And, And I feel I used the word shoe about 4 times instead of shit. Like, I was like, oh, shoe. And people were like, what is that? Like, I just not used to it. It's crazy.
I feel like that can be more effective, though, sometimes when you're trying to get a laugh across because people expect you to swear, right? But they don't expect you to say things like shoe.
Oh, for flip-flop.
Yes, exactly. Be like, oh, flip-flop.
No, like try to throw in a fudge every now and then, and they're gonna be like, "What the fuck is up with this guy?" They'll be like, "Alex, stop swearing." Like,
don't really get her, man. She's crazy. She's saying things like fudge.
Like, they're like, "Are you okay?"
Let's listeners, if you're listening to this, what words do you use to disguise? If you're at the kids and you're kind of like, for flip flop sake, I don't know.
My friend told me that she uses the word instead of fuck for the action, muffining. So I thought that was really interesting. So I just learned that this week, that she talked about something and she was like, yeah, and like, the like muffining. And I was like, oh, okay. She uses that in front of her daughter and it's just part of the conversation, girl talk over drinks. And she's talking about muffining her husband.
I think I'm going to steal that actually, because me and the wife are always looking for like a term to use whenever we want to be like talk over the kids' heads. Be like, hey, do you want to go night swimming later? And the kids are like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, none of your business. We're really into calisthenics and stuff. Don't worry. So I think I'm going to use muffining for now. And be like, hey, babe, want to go make some muffins?
Like we had to.
Oh, look at the dog.
This is Penny. She's whining, so she's going to say hello.
Oh, that's adorable.
Hi, Penny. You're welcome on the show. Thanks for joining.
You really are. You really are.
Teneisha, where does it begin for you with acting? Where does your journey begin? Your first roles, how you got there? Tell us all your story.
Okay. So, I have to start off by saying that I've always been this very animated, very talkative. I was very chatty Cathy, never shut up, always crying also. I was like the nonstop chatty crybaby who I would write stories and I'd make up plays and I'd set up the video camera and I forced my sister to be Toto in my One Woman Except for My favorite show of The Wizard of Oz. Yeah, she fucking hates me sometimes.
That's amazing. She was my dog. I just imagine you'd be like, all right, guys, we're doing the show. I'm going to be Dorothy. And what am I? Am I be Glinda or something? Like, no, you're Toto.
I put a leash on her. Like there's
oh my god.
There's a whole movie somewhere of me like being every character in The Wizard of Oz except for my sister who I made the dog.
Amazing.
I think I've always been like a performer, but when I was in primary school around 8 years old, one of our teachers started a theater program and she used to be an actor. So she was really into the creative process. So we took our favorite fairy tales and we would actually, as a group, rewrite them into stories that we wanted to tell. So I got my stage debut at 8 years old in a gender-bending role as Santa Claus, which pretty epic.
It is. That is really epic.
And I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. Like I was just like, I need to continue doing this. I didn't know what this was, but I loved it. All the flubs, everything. I loved everything about it. And honestly, I probably heard it on Entertainment Tonight or something that you need an agent to act. So I, at 10 years old, gave my parents the yellow pages and was like, find me an agent. And, they were kind of like, okay, this is Teneisha. And they found me an agent. And I was still doing school plays. And I don't like my first audition, I got a call back. I was really excited, but it was really recreational because, I had my, like, unless you're a parent and you have you have one child who wants to get into something really seriously, it's hard to devote your time. And I understand that, my sister, we were only 2 at the time, she's so cute, super shy. So the agent signed her too. She'd do auditions. She'd hate them. So it was really just for fun. It was recreational. And I didn't really think that it was possible to do anything in Montreal. I remember being like 10 years old watching Barney and thinking, I think Barney filmed in Vermont or something, or in my mind it filmed in Vermont, maybe because our PBS station that we watched was Vermont. So I was like, one day I'm going to be in Vermont and I'm going to be on Barney.
Vermont, the Hollywood of the East. Come on, guys.
What 10-year-old dreams of moving to Vermont, right? Like I was that 10-year-old. I was like, one day I'm going to go to Vermont. So it was
I support that, man. As a Vermonter, I'm like, yeah, come to Vermont. We're pretty okay. We got things. We got trees and nature.
Random wish ever, but I was like, I'm going to go to Vermont and I'm going to be on Barney and Zoom. Because those
I am so glad to hear that you watched that because PBS is great for a number of reasons. One of them because the educational program for children, it's free on top of everything. And so even if you don't have a lot of money in your family, PBS has got your back and they have kids programming until noon. And it is one of my favorite things. And as when me and the wife were young parents and stuff, we didn't have the money to get cable. So our kids watch Dinosaur Train and Curious George and all sorts of other things. So much, in fact, that we actually have a guest coming on in October who wrote almost all the the Curious George episodes. And even though he wrote Hocus Pocus and things like that, which is huge to me because that's big childhood part, because I watched so many hours of Curious George, I'm like, oh my God, you wrote Curious George. He's like, why do you care? I'm like,
Yeah.
Because I was forced to watch it, and it's kind of like Stockholm Syndrome. And I'm like, I love it so much.
I love PBS. I love PBS, and I really felt like viewers like me were making a difference, even though I never sent a contribution.
You horrible person.
I was a 10-year-old child. Like, I just wanted to, like, I was just like, I need to be on this. But yeah, so I just did it, recreationally. I auditioned, and like Montreal at the time was considered Hollywood North. In the 90s and the early 2000s, Montreal had more productions being filmed than New York and LA combined. So it actually was a very big market, and I auditioned for major productions. I auditioned opposite Denzel Washington and a movie opposite Reese Witherspoon and stuff, but like I didn't really realize it when I was 10, 12, 11, 13. And my agent ended up moving on, and she used to represent all of like the top child actors, and she decided to go on the casting end. And I didn't like who bought the agency, so I left. And I just still had it in my little 16-year-old heart, and still would do little things. But I'd already, in my high school, I was at a math and science high school. There's no school plays except for musicals. I cannot fucking sing for the life of me. Like, you don't want me to sing.
I will.
Did they at least do like Jesus Christ Superstar or anything like that?
No.
What?
It was a school that was 70% Jewish, so I don't think we would ever have done that.
Oh my God! Like, guys, this is the good part. This is where they blame me for everything.
Annie, they did all. I remember they did Oliver and stuff like that. And I was like, I wish I could sing. But yeah, so my old agent working on the casting, and she'd still, call me in for auditions. So I'd still audition every now and then, but nothing really serious. And then I think I was 19 or 20 years old and started hearing about these actors who were from Montreal, who were, doing these Emily Van Camp and all these different actors who were doing really well in the States. And I was like, oh, it's possible. And, my little nerdy self went on the internet and opened, Google, and went on the Yellow Pages and found, the acting schools that they went to. And I ended up going to the top youth theater school to just I was like, to train and to kind of get the connections to be able to do what they're doing, because every single actor who was in my age range who was doing amazingly in LA came from this school. And I did it, and I performed, in our our exclusive talent showcase at our biggest theater in the city, and got an amazing agent, had my first publicist, and just kind of everything else, oddly enough, just kind of domino affected itself from there. It was just a lot of synchronicities happened. I ended up meeting an agent who introduced me to the acting coach that became my acting mama, and, taught me how to be vulnerable and to not be afraid to be the crybaby. And that's why I ended up working a lot in drama. And then from there, I ended up meeting actors and writers and directors who are doing amazing things in, across the world. And somehow that led me to here. So basically I jumped back in at 20 years old, and never fully stopped the grind or the hustle and the self-improvement and education process, because I am very cerebral and I'm a nerd. I do know that it's lifelong learning in whatever you're doing. And a lot of people think, well, I have talent, I don't need to do anything. And it's no, when I'm not working, I'm training. And even if I am working, if I have time to train, I'll still train. So I always had that in me. And then, it took a couple of years for things to start rolling. And now I'm, doing podcasts with cool guys like you, and
that's adorable.
Like us.
Yeah, look at me, man. So much,
having this amazing role in one of the top 10 most streamed films on Netflix of all time, and things like that. It's surreal, and I literally feel like I'm living 10-year-old Teneisha's dreams every day, even the days that are fucking brutal, when you're just auditioning against, named actors, and you're just well, why would they want me? And you're rejected, because it's an industry with a lot of rejections, right? You get 100 no's before you get your one yes, and then you wait another 100 no's to get another yes. But then I remember that, 10-year-old Teneisha, who, let's say, wanted to be on PBS, who would watch, let's say, Arthur, who now has friends who are the voice actors of Arthur. And now my friends' kids, the next generation, they're voicing the next generation of Arthur and things like that. And I'm just my peers are the people who I watched on TV and strive to be like them. Like there are people who I've watched their shows and I'm like, now we're really good friends. And now they come to me for advice sometimes, or I'm beating them out for roles, or we're working together, or they're looking forward to working with me. So it's, success is very, very different at every stage of your life. Your mind changes it. But like, this is a very big version of success with me, that I can work with the people that I grew up watching.
Absolutely. I think it's super important that though. I think people do need to learn to do that, to look at what they got now and what they had 10 years ago, or so, because like there's times when a lot of people struggle. I mean, I do. I struggle a lot. I'm kind of like, I don't want to do this shit no more. It's too hard, right? And then I'm thinking, oh, I'm not getting anywhere. But then I'm thinking, I'm speaking to Teneisha Collins from Montreal. I'm speaking to Tom Bruno, who's in Vermont. We've got listeners from all around the world. We didn't have that 10 years ago. Stop it, Whiteley. Yeah. You can do this.
Shit, right? It's like, if you look back to last year or even 6 months ago to where you are today, like, even if you're not where you want to be, you can see even mentally maybe where you've grown. And I get a lot of those times where I'm like, fuck, like this is brutal. But I do have to admit that I've never really had the moment. And this is kind of why it even upsets me even more, because I've never had that moment where I'm like, I'm going to fold in the towel and not do this. It's more like, I wish I could stop. Like when it's really, really, like, when those moments are really, really brutal, I'm like, I wish I could stop, but I can't, because I know in my mind that I made a promise to myself when I was 16. I'm like, whether it means that I'm, at the Kevin Hart level, or if I'm, working a desk job and I can just do community theater and like little commercials on the side for fun, I need to keep doing this in some way, shape, or form. And now that I've seen just like what the difference 6 months, or not just 5 years, but 6 months can make, there's no way I can stop. It's more just like push through, keep learning, do different things, expand my horizons, and take on different interests. And the good thing is I love learning, and I've learned to love failing, because there's a lot of times that we're just like, oh, I want to try something, but what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. But then you remember that, oh yeah, everybody who tries something the first time probably sucks unless there's some kind of prodigy. You have to fail at something, see if you like it, and then keep going before you actually get good at it. So now I'm like, okay, how can I fail today? What can I do today that will allow me to fail and learn something about myself, and maybe distract me from the heartbreak of not getting that role that I had my heart set on, that I got to the final whatever for, or, on those days when it's really hard. That's what I kind of do.
That is probably one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard. And I think that should be kind of like, not, I mean, it sounds kind of productive, right? You want to be good at something, so you don't want to fail. But the way you just kind of put it, it's very important to fail for personal growth. So really, maybe we should all strive to fail a little bit on the inside, just so we can kind of like push our boundaries, because it's not easy to succeed, but like success is so much easier to understand than failure. So when you sit there and you think about it and you're like, oh, this is what failure is, really is just teaching lessons on how to succeed. That's a really cool way to go about it, I must say. When you were talking about the acting school, it wouldn't be the William B. Davis acting school, would it? Or
yeah, this is in Montreal, so it's the Dynamic Theater Factory. It doesn't really exist anymore, but the woman who founded it, she still, she was brought onto my set of a movie called Fatherhood to coach some of the young actors there. But they were really just like a training ground for some of the most successful actors coming out of Canada. And a lot of people that I know most of the people that I know who started at a young age made their way through that school at some point in time.
Well, the only reason I asked is because it is a Canadian school, the William B. Davis acting school is, but it's because he was the cigarette smoking man on X-Files. That's like who he is. And he has this acting school, I guess he's been doing for years. So I'm always waiting for somebody to be like, yeah, that was the school I went to. Because surprisingly enough, we speak to a lot of prominent Canadian actors, and it makes a lot of sense when you're like, well, especially because like they have that homegrown production sense, right? Like I think it's like 30% of the Canadian content needs to be on the airs. Yeah, exactly. So like it doesn't shock me at all that at one point, especially when you look at the stats, that Montreal was pushing out more content than the US, because you guys got to combat with a huge conglomerate that is Hollywood, a very well-established thing. And like Canada has some of the best content. I think that's also one of the reasons you guys lowered your prices so much to like have people film there. Like totally come to Canada, guys. It's so cheap.
We have so many tax credits, but also don't forget that like most of the stuff that's happening, we have a lot of Canadian stuff that's lower budget. You know, it costs, then they invest a lot less in our content. But I'm talking about American productions. Like my resume is only American productions, and I've only filmed in Canada. You know, there's so many, because, you know, Montreal, Vancouver, Toronto, now there's in Nova Scotia also. You can make Montreal look like New York. You can make it look like Europe. You can make it like, I filmed so many, like, you know, a lot of the green screen technology, because we have the best green screen technologists in all of North America. A lot of green screen projects film in Montreal. So like X-Men, Sin City, they come to Montreal. The new Transformers movie is filming here. Different things like that. And, you know, we have a huge video game industry. A lot of the biggest video games film in Montreal. It's a multi-billion-dollar a year industry. And now it's expanded to Toronto and Vancouver as well. And I think the reason that you have a lot of Canadians is because, you know,
you guys rock.
We're Americans, Canadians camouflaged as Americans. You know, like a lot of times you don't even know, because a lot of Canadian actors, you only really get to know them when, let's say, they made the move to LA, or when they booked some American show here. And then you're just like a lot of people, even on sets when I'm working, they assume that I'm from New York or LA, because I don't, you know, say what about it, and I don't sound, you know, like
I can hammer a tap into a tree.
You know, like I don't sound overly Canadian-y. So they assume that I'm American. But
say A. That's my go-to.
I say it every night. I say it when I try not to say it, which is annoying. But there's so many.
As somebody from Canada, though, does that? Okay, this is going to sound like I'm being a real dick now, but I'm not. But does that mean you have to try different accents from different areas in America just so you can try and get those roles? So you sound like you're not from Canada.
So there's something called, just like, you know, in the UK they have RP, right? Which
I don't know what you're talking about.
Which is a standard pronunciation that you'll kind of see across the board for a lot of the BBC projects, unless they're regional. You know, we have something called a standard American accent, which is basically anywhere USA, a very standard accent. You know, it's not Brooklyn. It's not like a specific New York accent. It's really a standard accent that you see in most projects. And honestly, most people who are like natively English in Montreal or Toronto or Vancouver, we have that standard American accent generally, although some do have some Canadianisms in there that they'll actually do training to be able to do the standard accent, because, you know, let's say when I'm auditioning or meeting with a producer and they assume that I'm American, they don't hear anything. But then as soon as I say, and they're like, oh, where are you from, New York? And then I'm like, oh, no. And I'm like, I'll say I'm from Montreal. Like, oh, yeah, now I hear it. Because all of a sudden, psychologically, they're like, oh, yeah, now I hear it. You said a boot. And I'm like, I've never said a boot in my life.
No. I'm going to put a boot in your ass if you don't calm down, motherfucker. Like, you don't know me.
It's like this subconscious thing for American producers and directors where they're always listening for it if they think you're Canadian. So they try to find it, you know? So like, I know people, like I have a friend who lives in Texas right now. She just did an audition and she just said, yeah, I'm in LA, because she doesn't want them to think that she's Canadian, because they're going to try to find the accent that's not there. But yes, there are people who do try to do the standard American accent. And there's lots of classes for it. I already have it natively. I've never had to take it. But then, you know, like there's, you know, if you want to sound African-American, like, you know, you might want to take a course or surround yourself in that environment. If you want to do, you know, a generalized Hispanic accent, you know, which is really sad because depending on your country, your accent's very different. But I feel like I've said fuck a bunch of times. We can be totally un-PC for white America. Hispanic is Hispanic. So there's one accent. You know, whereas like a Colombian versus a Mexican versus a Dominican versus a Cuban sound very different speaking English to me. But if you're not exposed to them, if you live in Minnesota, it's all the same.
If I call if I tell my wife she's from Peru, she slap me at the back of the head.
She'll beat the shit out of you.
There's different cadences, just like you know, if like there's a standard Southern accent, but if you go to Louisiana versus Texas versus Florida, there's different cadences in how people speak, and people who are from there people from Louisiana get really angry when they see projects that are set in Louisiana, because everybody just sounds like they're from Alabama. They're like, that's not how we speak.
We used to play a game, didn't we, Tom? Where we used to point at somewhere on the map, like, right, do the accent. And like with the UK, it's different. It's really difficult for Americans because people think that we we only sound like that, yeah. Oi, oi. Oh, we sound like this. Hello, Dad. Would you like more tea? Like that's all we get, right? But you know, you've got people from Liverpool that sound like Scousers. You know what I mean? Like then you got people from Manchester that sound like that. You know, there's so many brilliant, wonderful accents, and the same in America as well. And like with America, though, you've got like a state, and then inside a state, you've got different accents around that state. You know, it's interesting. I love accents. I think they're so brilliant. They really
It's
are.
funny
I
how
really
imagine
enjoyed hearing your little accents for all your UK accents. That really made me very happy.
Oh, there's so many. There's like Yorkshire as well. You bastard. That's your Jon Snow. You bastard. You know I love that so much.
See, when
Bastard.
Alex says we used to play a game, he used to play a game, and I'd marvel at the fact he could play it because I'm like, I don't do accents. I just barely start. I started watching the show. Are you familiar with You're Under Arrest? It's like the Canadian cops, essentially, like the show Cops in America.
Okay.
And you think about it, it's very rugged, and like get on the ground. Like Canada has a version of that called You're Under Arrest.
Oh my God.
And I've been watching it because it's so beautifully Canadian. They'll be like, well, you've had too much to drink, and we're gonna call you a cab, but you really need to think about this before you get in the car next time. And it's so brilliant, and I like watch it every day before I go to bed now. I'm like, it's so fucking beautiful. It's so like I love Canada so much. A question for you, Teneisha, do I have an accent? Because I don't know if I do. Like whenever I talk to somebody, nobody ever knows where I'm from. They don't even know where the fuck Vermont is most of the time. They're like, where's that? Is that in Canada? I'm like, sure.
From Sheffield.
So you don't you do have like a generalized American accent, but then like you just said sure, right? Sure is a very Canadian thing. Most Americans say sure. Whereas like sure is a Canadian because it's more from the British, right? Sure. So there's you have little tiny hints of Canadian things in you that if we were out in a bar and we're talking, I'd probably after a while be like, okay, so where like,
from?
either you moved around or something, because there's a little bit of something in there that it's like. But generally, it's standard. You have kind of like the standard American accent, I would say, except for like little tiny Canadianisms in there, which makes me really happy.
We've spoken to a few actors. I mean, I want to talk about a little bit about Monsieur de Limoux, who came on. He was in.
Yes, he is. All you guys know each other. Excellent.
Yeah, of course. I know.
Mo is amazing.
He's like my next door neighbor. Hi, Mo.
Don't start that shit again. He was like, I'm waiting outside your house with a pizza. I was like, Tom, stop it, man. You're gonna think
everyone knows I'm joking until I really do.
No, they
Alex.
don't.
And then they just know.
They don't know who the fuck you are. I do, but these guys don't. But no, we had a really interesting conversation with Mo because he was like, yeah, I was getting bits here and there when I was in Canada, and I could have sat on a soap for the rest of my life, but he's like, no, I want to go for the big roles, and he's like, I got to move to America, so we did. Is that ever in your plan?
So
to do that?
My career's been very interesting because, I feel like when you're, average, when you're like, how do I say this without sounding cocky? When you're an attractive young actress, you're kind of conditioned to that you're going to have this gossip girl CW type career. My first role in like our union was Hot Campus Girl number 2. Just to give you context. And that was for a show called Blue Mountain State.
That's so weird. That was my first role too. I'm so surprised we have that connection.
Totally believable. So, but that's kind of what you're conditioned to do. And you're kind of going in for like girl next doors and just hot girl, pretty girl, hot girl, pretty girl. But my acting coach that I said was my acting mama, she was lovely. And what she kind of would tell everybody in the class is she goes, you're all so beautiful. No matter what level of attractiveness you are, you're young, you're beautiful, you have all your health in you. She's like, you're going to work because of the way you look, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a nerd, or whether you're beautiful, whatever it is, you're going to work. You're going to book roles based on what you look. My goal here is to help you deepen that so that when you're old and wrinkly and fat like me, she would say, that you'll still work because your talent will speak for itself. And then also that when you book those meaty roles, that people who won't look at that and be like, oh, he just booked it because he has a British accent, or she just booked it because she's cute, or he just booked it because he has this cool ass mohawk. It's going to be like, no, because their talent is there, Yeah. So she ingrained that in me and I worked really, really hard, and I really wanted to prove to myself that I could do this because of my talent. And then it was just a matter of like waiting for that right role. And I ended up getting that role on a show called Real Detective, which is an anthology series. True stories Really amazing show. Every episode's a different story. And it's in the style of True Detective. So it's a very raw, gritty drama. And I remember being at this audition, and it was a very, very emotional whole audition. And after one of the scenes where I'm like bawling my eyes out, I turned to the casting director and I'm like, how's my makeup? Because I was worried my mascara was running. And he was just like, I don't care. Let's just go again, you know? And I was like, I had gained a little bit of weight. I wasn't feeling pretty. I wasn't feeling hot. And like, I know I did a great audition, and then I booked the role, and I was like, oh, I know I booked this, not because of how I look or what size I was, but because of what I brought. And that was kind of like, it shifted in me, which also at the same time shifted the industry for me, because then all the kinds of roles that I was getting weren't just these superficial, and I love, like, the superficial roles are really fun too, those like little sitcom-y stuff, but it was these raw, gritty, challenging, dramatic roles that I imagined playing when I was 50 years old that I was now getting at 30, like, 25, 30 years old, and I would book them. So like because of that, and because I had been preparing, I feel like I've been preparing for the last decade for these types of roles, that when they came, I was like, let's fucking go. I am ready for this. And like the show was nominated for a bunch of awards, like that specific episode. So I was like, okay, I could do this. And then, so my career's been a little bit different. So since like a little bit before then, I kind of had this like hyperbolic climb, where my roles just got more and more interesting. And I stopped going in for the bit parts. And I got very, very, it's a very privileged position to be able to say, I'm not going to go in for the one line on a TV show, because if I do, then I'm burning myself for the recurring roles or that big guest starring role. And my agent and I were on the same page. So I was able to do that from Montreal. It was incredible, so part of me was just like, okay, I should move to LA. And I had a lot of friends who moved to LA who were, we kind of started at the same time, but the resumes were a lot less substantial than mine in terms of, the types of roles. Like I was getting these like great roles on network shows and big movies. And they were kind of starting from scratch and at a standstill. And I was like, no, I'm going to go when LA calls, or I'm going to go when I have something to bring with me, versus just like, hi, I'm here. And then I'll be in a room with 20 other people who look and behave like me. Like, there's no point. In my mind, I was like, look, like I said, Montreal's still a major, even though it's not number one anymore, still one of like the top 5 or 7 in North America. If I can't make a name for myself in my own city, how am I going to make it in LA or in New York or anywhere else? That's how I looked at it. So I was like, no, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to cut my teeth here. I'm going to keep climbing this, like keep this exponential momentum that I'm on right now, and build a reputation for me. And then, Toronto is like the Canadian LA. Everybody's like, I'm going to go to Toronto. I'm going to go to Vancouver. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to let Toronto call me. I'm going to keep doing it here because they know me. They've known me since I was 12 years old in this city. Why would I leave where they know me, they trust me, they take chances on me. They're starting to like see me more than just with like the bubbly cheerleader Teneisha that's presenting herself now. They see all the different sides of me. And it was a very hard decision to make, and it was very strategic, but it worked out for me. And then Toronto started calling. And now in Montreal, I'm auditioning and having meetings in Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, LA, Halifax, like from my own hometown. So I got very lucky, I think, because a lot of people do have to make that jump at some point. And I know that in 2019, when I had finished filming Future Man, I filmed Future Man and Fatherhood concurrently. I was filming them both across the same summer. And I was like, okay, this is my first network recurring role. And this is this like large role in this Hollywood movie that ended up being shrunk, but it was supposed to be a really large role. And I was like, okay, like now I'm ready. And I had great connections, and I was connected with the casting and the producers and everything. And they were like, let us know when you're in LA. So my plan was, okay, the movie's going to be released in spring 2020. Spring 2020, when I go for the premiere, before that, I'm going to apply for my US visa. I'm going to stay in LA, build that momentum, because I'll have that momentum. And then what happened? COVID happened, right?
Yeah.
Changed everything. But what that did is that it shifted things for me, because back then, like that was just the beginning of the new chapter of my career. And COVID happened and it forced everything to go virtual. And then it, opened the door to both countries to me in a way. So now I'm kind of, at the stage where I'm like, eventually I will go to LA. But right now, everything is virtual.
Yes.
I'm very happy and very comfortable in my hometown. I'm very happy to be able to be taping and having meetings across the country already. When things reopen fully, we'll see. Who knows? Like, we're kind of playing it like, month by month at this stage. But I think now is the time where I'm like, okay, I feel like I've done all that I can in my own town. And I also feel secure enough that if I leave, they're still going to call me back anyways. That now it's time to kind of, those seeds that I've been sowing in LA, time to, let them blossom a little bit. But once the pandemic allows me to water them.
Now, you see, the thing is, you might have seen my daughter go through. She reminds me a lot of you, energetic, fun, like full of emotion, like everything you're describing about yourself as a younger lady, are all things I see in her. So, and of course, just like every young girl, at least some young girls, she wants to, establish herself, and she wants to act, she wants to do all these things. What kind of advice would you give to a girl that maybe looks at you and, maybe not future man, but maybe in fatherhood and says, that's what I want to do, that's who I want to be? What would you tell that person?
So first thing I would say is, not only is it okay, it's encouraged to be more than one thing. You can be more than one thing. So look, I wanted to be a ballerina. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be Miss America, and I wanted to be a lawyer. And there's so many things that I wanted to do. And it was never a question of this or that. It was a question of when can I do it all? Right? Because we are not one thing. We are not just one thing. You guys are not just podcast hosts. You have your fathers, your friends. You have all these different aspects to your lives, and I'm not just one thing. And all those different things that I am, like, I studied science in university. I studied science and business. I went to a math and science high school, but I was also in a sorority, and I was a competitive cheerleader. And I've traveled across the world, but I also love my hometown. And I'm all these different, I'm so many different things in one person. And each experience that I've had makes me richer and richer. And then I can bring that to the work that I'm doing, right? And I find that every time that I explore something that I want to do, like I said, whether I succeed or not, whether like letting myself just be bad at something to see what it's like to do it, I learn more about myself and I add more to my toolbox, so to speak. And that toolbox makes me much more alive actor. But also I feel just like a cooler person to be around. The people who are just like, I am just this one thing, I'm just going to focus on this. And they don't really want to, they're afraid to deviate. Like, you're limiting yourself, right?
Yeah.
So I would say first of all, you start where you are. Like, I just came back from Toronto, and I've had this conversation with a few family members. One was my 11 or 12-year-old cousin, who she saw the movie and she's like, how did you get started in acting? I want to do that. And we talked about that. And then she's like, I also want to be a dentist. And I was like, cool, do both, And then I have my cousin who's my age, who he said that he always wanted to do it but was afraid, and he works in sales. And I was like, take a class, see if you like it, maybe do an audition just for fun. And he sent me a voice note, and he was like, I'm doing my first voice audition, at like 30 years old. He's doing his first audition as a father of a newborn and as a salesperson. And it just adds to your life, so build your toolbox. There's no right or wrong time to do something. It's never too late. So for your young daughter and for your grandmother, it's the same thing. It's never too late to try something new. And trust your gut. Trust your gut when it's pulling you towards something, and maybe sometimes ignore your gut when it's telling you to take a step back. Because if it's not life or death, like what I've learned, and I feel like, and I keep having this conversation over and over again, but because it lives so much, like it's so alive inside of me, is, 100,000 years ago, that anxiety that we felt was because we actually had a real predator there. It was, feast or famine. It was being chased by some wild animal. But now in 2021, if I have to, I had to pick up the phone to make an appointment for my dog at the vet. And I was like, oh, can I do this by email? Like, I don't want to pick up the phone. That anxiety that we're feeling is that flight or flight response still alive in us today because we're not being chased by anything, right? And usually, like 9 out of 10 times, it's really just, it has nowhere else to go. It's not life or death. It's not going to leave us in financial ruin, and it's not going to hurt anybody else. So for me, when I have that fear or that like thing that's like, maybe I shouldn't, I ask myself, I'm like, is it going to ruin me? Is it going to ruin my life, ruin my career, ruin my relationships? Nope. Is it going to hurt me or somebody else? Nope. Then what's stopping me? And then I do it anyways, because feel the fear of doing it anyways is I'd say it's like the number one reason as to why I am who I am today in my career as a human being, as everything that I do. And it's something that I try to encourage everybody, but especially young women who are so conditioned to be something that society wants them to be, is to just be whoever the fuck you want to be and be unapologetically that, and go where the pull takes you. And if something's pulling you away, unless it's something that feels harmful, you have nothing to lose by trying it. And if you fail, you fail. But guess what? You'll learn something. Even if what you learn is just, I don't like that, then you learn something, and then it's not a failure. So that's my long-winded advice to
that's perfect. That's beautiful.
Women everywhere.
One of my favorite actresses of all time, because she's very much like that. It's Natalie Portman. Natalie Portman's just amazing because she's clever cookie, man. You know, she's been to university. She does, and she did the rap stuff with Lonely Island. She didn't give a fuck, and she's an amazing actress too. She's clearly one of those people that's just like, I am who I am, so fuck you if you don't like me. And I love that about her.
See, it's so funny because my favorite actress is Teneisha Collins. It's so funny that you would say it like that because that's it's just so weird.
Fuck you, Alex. You had
the opportunity. You had the opportunity. I snitched it away from you. I was like, haha, I got it now.
Sorry, Tanisha. I didn't mean to just like, someone else.
By the way, do you know who's great? Is Natalie Portman. You're like, yeah, she's pretty great. No, let me assure you why she is. And I'm back here going, oh, you just wait, motherfucker. I got this.
No, because she was like the face of a lot of hate for a while there with the prequels and stuff like that. And she's still fucking Natalie Portman. So it's amazing. Let's talk about the what we haven't talked about already. We've only got a short amount of time to talk about. I can't believe we haven't talked about it. Is the movie Fatherhood with you and with Kevin Hart. Oh, by the way, we watched that. Of course, I was going to research that movie, and fucking I cried like a girl all the way through. Honestly, I shouldn't say that. That's really bad because I cry at everything, and I'm not a girl, and you're not a girl for crying, boys. But no, I did. I cried a lot from that movie. It made me so emotional. As a father myself, watching that movie with a little girl as well. I've got a girl. I know not exactly what it's going through, but like I connected with so much of that. What was that like for you, being a part of such an amazing movie?
It was surreal. So I have to say that I don't even know where that idea came from, but at the beginning of that year, I think I was just kind of thinking of, because I also am writing and I'm trying to create, and I was thinking like, who do I want to work with? So I just made a data dump list of every single person, actor, writer, director that I want to work with. And honestly, the list was mostly people that I knew. It was mostly my peers because they're the most fucking talented people I know. But there were some celebrities in there as well. And at the top of the list was Kevin Hart and Alfred Woodard. And 6 months later, I'm working with them. So to me, just that in itself was just like a holy hell, how did I get here moment? And Fatherhood's based on a true story. It's based on the true story of Matt Loughlin after losing his wife, Liz, who actually today, September 18th, is her birthday, her heavenly birthday. So it's like, I feel like on set, I've done a few projects where it's true stories. I personally always feel an extra responsibility to be as not just good, but as sensitive to what I'm doing as possible so that I can do everybody involved in the story justice, even if they are the villain, that like there's somebody out there. I always say like there's somebody out there who loved them, even if they're the most horrible person in the world. So I need to do this without judgment and just be fully this character. And with that movie, I felt that every single member of that set, from the crew to the cast to the producers, we all felt that we were doing something special. And for 3 months, in Montreal, these 100+ people were all just so beautiful. And it was just such magical moments. And it was very long days. And, I'm working with, like, all of my scenes are with the 7-year-old, at the time, 7-year-old Melody Hurd, who is a tremendous talent. If you've seen them on Amazon Prime, she's fucking killer. and Kevin Hart, you know. So it really was, it was everything that I dreamt of my entire life and more. I think that, you know, it's 2 years later. It's 2 years later, and I still vividly remember the feelings of being on that set. I vividly remember the feeling of being in an airport bar in Miami, flying back to Montreal, and just receiving the script and reading the script and then bawling my eyes out like a little schoolgirl in the airport bar in the first 10 pages. I got my drinks for free, which is great. But like, I remember like they were just like, oh, take all your drinks for free. But it's just, I feel like even if I become the star of, you know, my own Hollywood blockbuster film, I will never forget the experience of filming Fatherhood. And I mean, the fact that, you know, in the first 2 weeks, I think it was viewed by 76 million households in 81 countries worldwide. And it's right now it stands as one of the top 10 most streamed films on Netflix, which it was originally supposed to be a theatrical release. So I was really bummed that I'm like my first big Hollywood film, like my biggest project that's on Netflix. But then I was like, no, every country in the world has watched this movie and fallen in love with this story. And the Obamas are the production company. So the Obamas fucking know who I am. The Obamas know who I am. I'm just like, it's
tell your grandma, be like, hey, I'm 1 degree separated from Obama's, guys. So in your face, he's the rocket anymore.
Hey, give me that teacher lady. What was her name again? Teneisha.
And it's crazy because like I have people from around the world messaging me, strangers telling me how the movie impacted them, you know, like complete strangers, me. And I'm just like, or like, not just like educators who've been in these positions, you know, with a child, like Maddie, the real Maddie, you know, she dresses in quote unquote boy clothes. I wish that we kind of were able to delve more into that in the movie, but dealing with everything, like there were scenes that were cut that dealt more with that, but I understand why, because the material's already so heavy, but it impacted so many people. And I
that nearly caused an argument between me and my wife, by the way, because I was like, wear pants, man, let her wear trousers. You know, why does she have to wear a skirt? And she was like, well, that's the uniform for schools. And I was like, yeah, but like, I feel like the girls should be able to wear trousers. It's a choice. Imagine telling someone what they can and can't wear. I mean, she's like, but what about if they go into work? I was like, they changed that rule in work. They cannot make people wear dresses in work anymore. They changed it. And she was like, oh. And I was like,
well, it's funny because there was a scene that was cut where, or a part of a scene that was cut where Kevin Hart is speaking with the headmistress, and he's just like, what the hell? He's like, it's whatever year he's like, it's this year. And, we've progressed beyond that. Like, she's a girl. Why can't she wear pants if she wants to? And she kind of was like, look, like, we're actually very progressive for a school, in our middle schools and above. You know, the boys can wear skirts if they want. It's just we really want to enforce structure with the kids. But like, obviously, that whole part of the storyline was significantly reduced, which unfortunately affected some of my scenes. So that kind of hurt my ego. But I understand. I understand why. I understand the story. But no, I mean, it's very accurate. Like, if you see the real Maddie, like, she's very much, you know, she loves her flannel shirts and her jeans. And I think that was very, like, you could see hints of it because throughout the movie, everything, like, her room is very much dinosaurs in space, and she's in pants and like space stuff. She's never in girly stuff, you know? And it made a lot of people think. I think a lot of people, especially a lot of Black men, where there's there's a pervasive, not everybody, but there is a homophobic and gender phobic something ingrained within some cultures in Black America. And a lot of people, I follow the hashtag, so I read a lot of like the discussions following the movie, and a lot of people like seeing it from that angle. They were like, oh yeah, that does make sense. And it opened a lot of people's minds, even with the subtleties, which I thought was really cool.
It caused a bit of shit, didn't it? I mean, there was what's his name, Brandon T. Jackson. So there's a scene at the end. I need to ask you about that anyway, personally, because there's a scene. I thought, spoilers. Can we say this? There's a scene at the end. It's during the credit scene.
Yes. Yeah. My favorite scene. I'll tell you why. But go ahead.
Yeah. So Kevin turns up to the school. He's like, "Are you ready?" And she's like, and his daughter's like, "Yeah, I'm ready." And he's in the skirt himself as well. And he pans out and he shows him in the skirt, stood there talking to you. How was that? How did you keep a straight face for that, by the way?
Oh my God. Okay, so first of all, what I loved about this movie so much, and that's something that I forgot to mention, is that even the scenes that I'm not in the movie, everybody has had their impact on this film, because I was working with like 50 kids for 3 months, and myself and Melody, we became really, really close. And, you know, she's a little dancer, so we do a lot of choreography, and she taught me that dance, the floss, which I still can't get. So we were always dancing and doing choreographies between takes. And Paul Weitz, who's the director, who also directed and co-wrote About a Boy, which is one of my favorite movies, and American Pie. He was nominated for an Oscar for About a Boy. But he came up to us and he was like, "Oh my God, I love it." He loved our relationship, you know? So we'd take little tidbits of our relationship and infuse it in Kevin and Maddie's, and they had their own special relationship too. But then he saw us, like, we were always dancing, and he was like, can you teach that dance to Kevin? And so that wasn't scripted. That was literally because me and her were doing it nonstop that he ended up getting Kevin to do it. And like, Kevin is a naturally funny guy. This is a dramatic movie, but he's naturally funny. He doesn't have to try to be funny, right? So there were a lot of laughs in general and a lot of heart-to-hearts, but a lot of laughs. So in that scene, which was not the last scene that we filmed, even though it's the last scene in the script, luckily, like there's a lot of over the shoulder scene for me, because all you see is my cheek, and one of the cheek from the side, because I'm laughing, and then he kind of like waddles away like a penguin, because he calls us penguin. It's so hard not to laugh everything, because all of my scenes with Kevin, except for 1 or 2, are very comedic. You know, it's the comedic relief in the film. No, he had me in stitches the entire time. So that scene, especially, like, when he showed up in the skirt, I think I missed that part in the script. I don't think I saw, like, in the stage direction, so I didn't even know.
So it was a surprise to you.
Like, it was like, it shouldn't have been, but like, I was just bad actor, didn't read the stage directions in his scene, because I was just like, let me just learn my lines. So when I saw him in the skirt, I was just like, hey, sexy legs, Kev. And then like he started doing the dance, and I think it took us a few takes to kind of stabilize to not lose it anymore.
Amazing. I know it caused a bit of backlash.
That's my little puppy. Remember how earlier you're like, oh, he might interrupt? That's my little puppy behind me. He's just like, now is the time to grab bags of chips, the most loud snack of all time, you know, when you're doing this. Teneisha, you are a treasure. I got to tell you this right now. You have been so much fun to talk to. You have so much energy about you that is just such a beautiful thing, because especially in the time that we're in, it's really hard to come across people like yourself that are just, you know, just so natural and just so cool and just like so much fun to chat with. I gotta say, this is one of my favorite interviews we've done in such a long time. So thank you very much for doing that.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, thank you. Oh my God. Well, inside now. Thank you.
And if when the borders open, I mean, right now they're very, very trickling open. Like you can get across with a test and all that type of stuff. And we moved up here prior to COVID, and it was our intention to go show our kids Canada, because one of the nice things about Vermont is it's like that's right across the border. We'd go all to like the Biodome and all that type of stuff. We do all sorts of things because it's right across the border. So me and the wife have been trying to get it back across to show our kids Canada and all that stuff, but eventually things are going to open back up and we're going to start be able to go. And I hope one day, you know, you don't have to say yes or anything, but like, I hope you'll let me oppose upon you to maybe meet up with me and the wife, and you can show us a real homegirls version of Canada. I think it'd be very cool to see it through your eyes.
Homegirls version of Canada.
Yeah.
Love that. I feel like I'm Montreal's mascot anyways. Like I've traveled the world, and it's still one of my favorite cities, so I would absolutely love that. And you're not imposing. I'll like. And
if you're ever in Shrewsbury in the UK, I'm joking.
Oh, shame!
On your door, Alex. You know, I've been dying to go back to London, and I almost got convinced to go.
Not London, on Shrewsbury.
Shrewsbury, the London of the East.
Shrewsbury is from London, but.
It's quite far, but I mean, it's the birthplace of Charles Darwin. I mean, come on.
It is.
Oh, well, then
evolution was born.
We got castles.
I love that so much. We got castles, you know. Fucking
castles are great.
Stuff.
Yeah, a prison. Is a prison? I work. Teneisha, you are fantastic. Honestly, we've had some, and we've spoken to a few actors over the last year or so, and I really wanted to do like a behind the curtain sort of podcast series where we talk to actors about their trade. You know, sort of encourage people and get people outside their box and stuff. Do a bit of improv and talk about how you get there with an accent and find your characters and stuff. Yeah. So if we do that, I'd love to invite you back.
Oh my God, I would look like you guys have both been such a delight, and I love talking, but I love conversing as well. And this was such an amazing exchange. And I love, like, we're talking about things that I love talking about. You know, we're talking about, you know, mindset and motivation and drive and my career and acting and the craft. And I do think that will be a great thing because not everybody needs to be an actor, but I think that a lot of the tools that we have help people in their day-to-day lives and their own careers as well. So I would totally love to come back.
I think improv is just so important though, for life, just normal life. I mean, like just having conversations with people. If you can think, you know, and move naturally in a good direction, improv is so important.
Especially for people who have anxiety, you know, like if there's social anxiety, then, it's like, okay, then it becomes a game versus a conversation, and it makes it a lot easier.
Well, let's be charming for a bit. Let's just be charming. Let's do that one. That's a great one. Oh, I can do that one for a little bit. I suffer the same. It's a weird one. Where can people find you? If there's somebody listening to this and thinking, Teneisha would be great for this thing that we're working on, how can they get in touch with you?
So absolutely find me on Instagram at Teneisha C. That's where I'm most active. I share career. I share basically anything that comes to my mind, which is a lot of motivation, a lot of mindset, a lot of things that will get you thinking, and then career stuff and life stuff and little things about Penny, my dog. I also have a website, TeneishaCollins.com, where it's a combination of acting and myself. You can follow me on Twitter, where it's a data dump for my brain. Anything that I feel is interesting enough to share publicly, but that nobody that I know would want to get it in a text, goes on Twitter. So definitely a lot of office tweets there, but Twitter, and I am working on my YouTube, so Teneisha Collins on YouTube. You'll be able to find me there, and eventually it will have something interesting there. But for now, it's just a couple of videos. Amazing. But definitely, don't try to reach out. I'm happy. I love speaking to people. Reach out, send me a message, slide into my DMs.
You've been amazing, honestly. I've loved this so much. I forgot to ask. I'm really sorry. Are you working on anything at the moment? Is there anything you'd like to tell people about? Or
so right now I'm working on a few things that I can't really talk about. I do have a couple of, which is every actor says that, right? Yeah, but I do have a few things that I can't talk about. But I do have a couple of French Canadian shows coming out. One actually just premiered that my episodes are coming out shortly, called 6 Degrés, so 6 Degrees, and Nuit Blanche, which is like all nighter. I actually have a pandemic Zoom adventure series based on Dungeons and Dragons called Dungeons and Distancing, where I'm one of the leads. I play the dungeon master, Casey. That's available on YouTube, Dungeons and Distancing. It's really easy to watch. It's silly. If you play the game, you'll love it because you're going to see yourself in it. If you don't play, you're going to want to play because so much drama ensues.
Amazing. You just have so much. I said it. You are a treasure, my friend. You just have so much going on. I love the fact that you don't put yourself in a box. This has just been such a delight. I love this so much. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much. This was really. You guys are amazing. This was so fun.
Thank you very much. What we tend to do now, Tania? Oh my God. I've got a whole day of prison inside me. My head's fucked. It's mashed potato up here right now. What we tend to do now, Teneisha, is we're going to slip on over to the later lounge. We're going to geek out a bit. We haven't spoken for a bit. So we're going to be talking about Rick and Morty. I want to talk about.
Do that.
So we're going to slip over to the later lounge and we'll let you get on with your day. But ladies and gentlemen, Teneisha Collins, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
You too.
See you later. Amazing.
So thank you so much.
Thank you. So much. This was honestly really great. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
We try really hard. I mean, like, this is just one of those things that I know we're still going, but we started this thing like 3 years ago. Alex started with a buddy, and then we kind of I joined on just because we were both fans of this Kevin Smith Facebook page, and we just started doing this whole thing, and it's really affirming. And thank you very much for the very lovely compliments. It's very reaffirming to us that we're doing the thing that we should be, because we feel that we give great content. But of course, like, with everything being so combative with, there's TV and YouTube and everything else, we don't get the numbers that we feel like we should. And that sounds like really shitty, right? Like, we're like, ew, we don't get what we should.
No, but
we get. But the content, we listen back and we're like, we have these people on, we have these amazing conversations, and we don't hear other people doing this. So why is it that, the person with the car YouTube channel has 5.6 million views, and we have the amazing Teneisha Collins on, and we're only rocking like 100 or 1,000 or something? That makes
honestly
sense.
Like I've been doing, like, because I did a lot of promo for the movie. I think I've probably done since June about 40 podcasts. Wow. And some are just like, I just did one that's launching on Monday. It hasn't launched even yet. And I've done with like different viewership levels. And being a performer, I can appreciate and I can see the talented side as well. And you guys are really good at this. You guys are really good conversationalists. You guys are good at going with the flow. You're good at, I'm a tangent. I'm a walking tangent. Everything is tangential with me. And you guys are good at rolling with the punches. You guys are really good at this. So I think that in the spur of so many podcasts.
We're getting somewhere, Tom. We are definitely.
I know, somewhere. Right? I'm gonna go to bedtime. But Teneisha Collins thinks we're all right. We're must be okay.
I think not everybody's good at this, and you guys are quite good at this. And I felt very comfortable. Whereas sometimes I feel like I'm trying to make the host comfortable, and I'm just driving the conversation. Like, this was a conversation versus an interview. And you guys are really, really good.
Thank you.
We've got that.
No,
go on.
I was gonna say there's plenty of actresses out there, Teneisha Collins, but I must say you are my favorite among all of them. And from now until the end of time, be like, oh, do you know who's an amazing actress? Teneisha Collins. She won an Oscar, shouldn't she?
I'm gonna get so much work from this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I spoke to this American boy, Tom Bruno. He says I should hire you. He just wouldn't shut the fuck up. You're like, yes, I knew it. If I would have said nice things about that boy's podcast, it would turn out something great.
So
do you know what's rewarding about it is, though? Over the last few weeks, we've been suffering quite a bit of failure. It sounds daft, but we've been planning this charity event in 2 weeks. It's called Pod Aid. It's a 24-hour live podcast. I'm not trying to plug it. We're not on at the moment, but it's a 24-hour long podcast. So that's 24-hour long guests. There's the logo. So we're working with so much. We're trying to get all the guests in, trying to find the sponsors. We've had this terrible ordeal. So I'm thinking, I'm so bad at this. It's really bad. And then we speak to someone like you, and it reminds me again, just kind of where we are now. This is what was true, what I said. Think about where I am now, or where I was a year ago, to where I am now. So thank you for reminding me about that today. Genuinely.
Yeah, of course. Look, like I said, like I've had a slew. Like I when I say that I had a slew, like I've had like 45 auditions where like the casting director and my agent's like, this is fucking killer. And then the producers are like, meh, so, like, you're like, oh, and I'm like, I'm preparing. I'm like, I'm going to be in Scotland. I'm going to be in Vancouver. And then the producers are like, it's the final two, but meh, so I know that feeling of like, you're doing good work, but then you're like, everything is happening against you. And you're just like, am I actually really shitty at this or whatever? But I think that, like, honestly, that exercise of being like me auditioning opposite, whatever name actor, and like they booked it, but it was final two between me and them. I'm just like, I wouldn't have been able to, remembering that, or like, the fact that you can get sponsors. 3 years ago, you wouldn't have been able to get sponsors.
Oh, I know. We're getting there.
All right, we gotta let you go, Teneisha. We gotta let you go, because otherwise we will just sit here and talk the rest of the day.
Forever, but this was really great. I'm happy that we were finally.
Come back on soon, man. Come back on. I'm like, Teneisha, what are you up to? Come back on the show. We'll do that.
No, seriously, anytime.
Well, if you click the Leaf Studio button, we'll do the later lounge. We won't do a short one, right, Tom? And then we'll get out of here. I've quested the wife of choosing the movie for tonight, so I'm so eager to see what she's chosen. So,
amazing.
Right. So click that leave studio button, and I'll send this to you when it's out. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day.
You too.
Good day, guys.
Thank you.
Today. Right. Slipping over to the later lounge. Where's the?
Did you call the? I love it when the Uber driver has candy in his little dish right there in the center thing.
Yeah, but I don't know who used this before us, but they've chucked the empty wrappers in with the fucking chocolates, like, and
what's that
who
all
does
about?
that? Who does that
I don't know.
shit?
That's
Like,
really rude. There's a trash bag right next to it. Clearly, it says trash right there. I don't know who writes on the car like that, but he does. And the guy was so nice. He had like Twix and Reese's, and I was like, oh my god, he even has Cadbury. And then we just start going through the candy, nothing but empty Raptors. What's that? What's that all about?
if you're one of those guys that does that leaves empty wrappers in a tin of Quality Street during Christmas, you're a fucking heathen. Okay, you're a heathen, and nobody likes you.
I want you to die. These are the things. So you guys probably did not hear the extra stuff. I feel like we should probably give that as like a little bonus thing at the end, because that was just like we ended up talking to Teneisha for like an extra 5 minutes just because of how phenomenal she was. And thank you so much, Teneisha Collins, for coming on the show. She was a fucking delight.
She really was fantastic. And I just love that. I think there is definitely something there about this behind the curtain style interviewing of actors, because you know, when you look at a movie like, I don't know, like Fatherhood, we'll take that for example. By the way, go and watch Fatherhood. It's fun, amazing. I'm not saying that because of Teneisha. It is really, really, if you're a parent, watch that film. It will make you cry. But like, you look at that and you look at the names that are attached to that. You know, look, it's Kevin Hart. You just see Kevin Hart. You see Kevin Hart and the characters he plays. You speak about Seth Rogan from Future Man, or like we were talking about that. And you just think of Seth Rogan. It's good to get that human element and to understand what goes on there, because it's not easy. The rejection part of going to auditions, the hard work, the traveling here, there, and everywhere, the working on characters, the reading of scripts. It's not easy. It really isn't. And it's rewarding when you hear about the joy. Like, for example, John Levine, he came on the show and he was talking about how his friends and his family suddenly realized he was part of the MCU because he couldn't say anything. He signed a non-disclosure. So then the trailer dropped for Loki and people were like, oh my fucking God, that's you, John. And he's like overjoyed. It's nice to hear that. It really is.
It is. It really is. And I gotta say, like, I don't think that we were kind of like, oh, poor us, why aren't we doing better? I really feel like it's just something that we need to talk to people about, because it is a little frustrating that we put our heart and our soul into this. We bring on the most amazing guests that we possibly can, and it just seems like sometimes you're just running in mud, and you're just like, why am I not getting farther than I think we should be? But then you talk to people like Teneisha Collins, and she's like, no, I've done this a few times, especially in the last few months, and you guys are just like, naturally good at this, and that just is such an affirming thing to hear from people. And by the way,
what my mom says.
I know that's what mom says. I am special. I know I did a very Shane thing there, dude, but like, she's just seemed like such a nice person. I was like, I think that the wife and me would have a good time like roaming around Montreal with her. So I definitely had to throw it out there, because
I love that, the Shane thing. For guys that want reference to that, we were talking to John Edney from OPM. He's like, and John Edney was telling about how OPM, they recorded a music video in Colebrookdale in Shropshire, and he's like, yo, if you're ever in Shropshire again, we'll go for a pint. I was like, what? And Tom was like,
John,
what?
He's like, sure. And he's like, okay, I'm writing down the books, and I was like, shut the fuck up, Shane.
But this is the thing, right? Shane is a lovely guy like that, and he would just be like, let's go for a drink, but you got to remember, like, do you know what I mean? So I love it. Rick and Morty, eh?
Yes. You finished it?
Yeah, I did. And one of the first things I did is wrote to the guys from the Rick and Morty podcast. I wrote to Brad, and I was like, we need to fucking offload shit. I need to. And he was like, no, go on then. And I was like, no, on a podcast, man. He's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's get them back on. They are phenomenal. Fucking interdimensional podcasts is what they do, and they are just phenomenal. Okay, so let's break down a couple things. This season it's good, and no, I'm not going to begrudge any of the season. Rick and Morty is just one of the shows that, even if I'm not particularly fond of an episode, I'll get through an episode like the turkey episode, but like, that was all right. I go back and I rewatch it, and I love it more, and then I watch it again, I love it even more, and then by the time I'm on my fourth viewing of it, I'm like, this is fucking phenomenal. How did I not see the brilliance of the show, of this episode in particular? Those last 3 episodes were fucking powerhouses of episodes for Rick and Morty. Would you agree?
Yeah, they did a Rocky 3 on us. When he retires and like Mickey dies, he's like, I'm not fighting the guy, and they leave it for way too long, and then she's like, win. I know that's Rocky 2, isn't it? When she goes, win. And he goes,
a Rocky.
And then Mickey's like, what are we talking about? What are we waiting for? Or something like that. And then, you're like, oh my God, they're going to do the fight thing. That's what they did with Rocky, man. With Rick and Morty.
That's what they did with Rocky, Tom. I'm going to break down the entirety. It's a boxing film starring Sylvester Stallone. There's a guy named Mickey, and he wants to be cut at one point. It's phenomenal. You should watch
That's what they did with Rick and Morty. They were like, here's some nonsense. And it was like silly little episodes that didn't really mean shit, like really. And I was like, and I think I called this a couple of weeks ago. I was kind of like, it's just sex in the fucking everything, and they're having a great time and everything. And I reckon they're just going to go bam, 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 bam. And they fucking did. They literally gave they basically told everybody, right? They gave everybody everything they've been asking for, and then went, now shut the fuck up. They even said, well, maybe the fans will stop chatting, going on about it now. Like,
it's so good. Okay, so spoilers. If you are a Rick and Morty fan, do not, like, you've not finished season, do not listen to this. Okay, how quickly did you catch that little bit when he's just like the first, like, because I caught it and I was like, he's like, yo, you're just another Rick living with your dead daughter. I'm like, whoa, what? Yeah, so what they showed us back in season 3 with the Rick Redemption, whatever that episode where where he goes back in where they go back in his memories and he's at the Shoney's and they show his wife and his daughter dying. That was true. That was accurate. And like that's the biggest problem.
But that fucked me up because he was like, true, but you can't you can do it about a fabricated origin story. And is that the blue pants? Is that just because he was wearing blue pants? The whole story was real. But he was wearing blue pants.
Maybe that's actually, funnily enough, you caught that and I did not. That's fucking brilliant. That could exactly be what that was. So that was fucking brilliant. The bird person of it all was just amazing. It's a really like a real introspective look at Rick as a character and as like younger Rick catching up with him. And then of course, followed by the thing that everyone's been waiting for fucking 2 seasons. The return of Evil Morty was fucking brilliant. And the fact that he's on level with Rick is even better. That is just like my because the entire time, like, when anyone goes against Rick, they are always at a disadvantage. Rick is the most brilliant man in the multiverse, right? Like he can do whatever he wants. He's a god essentially. And he's no one's ever on his level. He's always 16 steps ahead of you, except Evil Morty. And my favorite fan theory of all time has been that Evil Morty or Morty is Rick and Rick is Morty. They are the same person, just in different years. And I love the last couple episodes because you saw how Rick Morty can be. C-137 Morty.
Yeah. It was a mind blower. And what I loved about it is it was leaving like breadcrumbs. Go back and see episode 9, season 1. I love that so much.
So great. Fucking I love the bird person I'll do. It's so fucking brilliant. Like me and Shona were just watching and like this one of those things we definitely watched together. I'm sitting there like, oh my god. And she's just like, yeah, it's Tom. It's like, I'm like, oh my god, you fucking say that. And she wants to look at me. She's like, I show you my pussy and you fucking get excited about this.
Yeah. And it's like Cass doesn't watch Rick and Morty. She's not interested. I don't get even a smidge of that. She's just fucking not a big fan, man. She's not a big fan. I am though. But I always talk about Rick and Morty and how they're really good at telling really small stories very brilliantly, right? And the Morty's Mind Blowers is a perfect example of that, and this is what they did is they were like, I'm going to be Rick's like, I'm going to get a new sidekick, two crows, and they fucked about with that.
I completely forgot about the 2 crows. That was so fucking great. And Morty's like desperate attempts. Dude, his fucking death. He shows up at that place after he has the big fight. He's like, oh, hey, Rick. And he's like, Morty, what the fuck? Dude, and then he shows up as a fucking old man in his 40s. And you're just like, oh, man, that's so sad. And they're like, Morty, did you age yourself up? And I'm like, that's fucking brilliant. Oh, my God.
how much like us. Like as did Morty look? He looked like us when we fought.
Oh yeah, he did. He's so us. He looked like Jerry too. That was the other thing. I was like, wow, he looks a lot like Jerry right now. Like so much. Or he actually looks like Jerry's fake brother from that episode with the fucking imaginary friends and shit.
I was thinking of Fat Morty, the cop, Fat Cop Morty, kind of similarity there. Yeah. Call me a psychic one more time. So So, the Citadel of Rick's has gone, completely gone.
Yeah.
From all fucking timelines.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that means. And Evil Morty's gone. We don't know where because we've never seen a yellow portal before. What does the yellow portal even mean?
Oh my God, I don't know. I fucking love that so much though. He's like, I'm going to a place that no Rick can follow me. I was like, oh my God, that's so
Do you think that's
brilliant.
Do you think that's time travel? And do you think that's why Rick doesn't fuck with time travel?
No,
He's always said
I don't
fuck with time
know. I don't know. The problem is with the show, sometimes it outsmarts me so much. I have no idea what's going on. I'm like, where the fuck? They have to like spoon feed it to me. So as much as I feel like I'm on the up and up and I'm like keeping track and shit, I'm like, oh, I know what's going on. Then sometimes they'll throw you a fucking yellow portal. I'm like, what the fuck does the yellow portal mean?
Oh man, it's just a brilliant show. It really is. Now, I don't think we've even got that long to wait for the next season because I think it's already done, isn't it? The next season, I think it's already done. I think so, but they'll make us wait. But like,
oh yeah,
I'm really happy that with the season now because we've got a lot of fun to sit and watch. Because you know me, guys, listeners, if you've watched this show all the time, you'll know that I like to fall asleep to Rick and Morty. So when it goes on Netflix, which eventually it will in the UK, I will throw that into the mix. I'll have 4 seasons. 5 seasons. And I'll be able to just sit and vibe with that now. So I'm really happy with it. I'm glad that they were not only given the stuff that we wanted, but they're kind of like given a nod or shut the fuck up now, please. To the
I thought that was great, dude. Yeah, man. There's just
maybe they'll now shut up about it.
They're so aware of what they are and how loyal their fucking fan page is, their fan base is. It's really just something that I'm so grateful that I got pushed into watching, because if anyone remembers me talking about this in the beginning, I didn't really dig it. I had a lot of like picadillos with Rick going all the time, and I was like, I don't dig that. But then I rewatched the first season, I was like, oh, that's brilliant. And then like it was already into its like halfway through the second season, I was like, dude, there's so much about the show that is fucking just so it reminded me so much of Futurama and the things I love about Futurama, that I was like, why would I not instantly fall in love with the show? And I'm so glad that I gave it a second chance, because it's one of my favorite things ever. I look forward to every season of Rick and Morty that ever comes out. And I love that Rick's like, fucking Rick and Two Crows, 100 seasons, 100 years, Rick and Two Crows. That's fucking brilliant, dude. It was just so good. Oh my God, that Two Crows episode was brilliant.
I love that it's we find out that it's C-137 that created the Citadel, and now he doesn't want any part of it. I love that. There's a Rick's backstory montage explains that C-137 Rick created the Citadel after trying to hunt down the version of him that killed his wife and child.
Oh, so
quickly growing frustrated with his inability to do so. Rick's increasingly unhinged behavior is linked to this failure to find the murderer, and the fact that the montage ends with his showing up at his current Smith family makes it clear that he still hasn't managed to do so, while making Rick and Morty entirely hinge on Rick going on some Taken-style hunt is a bad idea from the narrative perspective. This unfulfilled goal does set up a good place to end the show when it's time, by finally letting Rick confront the man who ruined his life.
Love it.
I think there's so much to come. Where do you think where would you like them to go with it? Because obviously they can keep pumping season after season after season. Would you like to see movies? Because this was the difficult thing with The Simpsons, was like everybody wanted to see a Simpsons movie, and it did well, the Simpsons movie, but they've never done it again since, have they? Do you know what I mean? So
no. I don't know. I see, the thing is, I think I want to stay out of this portion of the conversation, because I like what they do, which is surprise me. They do that better than almost any other show. Like, you think you know where it's going, and then they'll just fucking 180 you, and they'll be like, nope, this is what it is now. And you're like, I accept it, and I love it. I don't know where they're going to go next, and I don't fucking care, because I'm going to follow them wherever they go. Even like, well, now Rick and Morty gangbang every day. And I'm like, yep, totally, let's watch it. Cool. Is Rick and fucking
Quite about a low rider. We're doing English, completely English accents only, Rick and Morty special. Hello there. Hello.
Really kind of cool. I'd like to watch the 3 Evil Morty episodes back to back. I think that'd be a lot of fun to watch. I think maybe we should do that before we meet up again. We should watch all 3 of them again, just see how that plays out, because it was such a cool arc. And they didn't. And the thing was that, like, it would have been so easy to start off season 4 with Evil Morty. It would have been easy. It would have been a fucking big get. But the fact is, they're like, no, we'll wait. We put it on the back burner and it'll show up eventually, but it doesn't need to be now. So smart.
What are we
Rocky 2.
So Brandon, we want to get you back on and we'll come on your show as well. I just want to talk about Rick and Morty all the time. Anyway, we better go because I got to spend some time with the family. I know you have too. Teneisha Collins, what an amazing guest! Thank you so much for joining us. We have had a few scheduling issues, so this is going to be out, I believe, before Pod Aid still. So I'm going to tell you guys about it. Pod Aid is something we're going to be doing in a week's time. I'm trying to remember the dates now. Here's Pod Aid. Here it is. Haha. It's a 24-hour long podcast that we're going to be doing to raise money for Lincoln Davis, which is a Shrewsbury-based cancer fund. And we have our main sponsors, thanks to Reach, who have designed all of our logos. They're in our social media. Had a meeting with them the other day. They're very much on board. They're very helpful. We are using the Shrewsbury Town Community Football Hub. It's outside Shrewsbury Football Stadium. Shrewsbury Town community are amazing. They do a great job with linking with various parts of the community, helping out with disabilities, with outreach, with young people. They do a great job. So we're very lucky to be able to use their venue. So thank you to them, guys. And what we're going to do is 9 a.m. on the 29th of September, we're going to go live on YouTube, and we're not going to stop till 9 a.m. on the 30th of September. There is a text to donate ability for you guys. If you text Pod Aid free to 700 8570085, text Pod Aid free to donate £3. It says here text Pod Aid free to 70085 to donate £3. Text costs £3 plus one standard rate message, and you'll be opting in to hear more about our work and fundraising via telephone and SMS. If you'd like to give £3 but do not wish to receive marketing communications, text Pod Aid no info 3 to 70085. But please text to donate. Do not, please just donate. It's for a great cause. We want to do this and be successful. So next year we can come back and be like, yo, I like the idea of making like a league table, seeing who makes the most. Because even if you come last and you've made $85, and you've positively helped your community, I think you do better than that. But we'll come back next year. We'll challenge you guys. It's going to be a good thing.
Challenge. We'll have challenge coins of challenge.
And if you want to find out everything you need to know us about us at USUK, you can go to our website.
Let's see if I can get through this while my internet's trying to shit the bed on me. Hey guys, we have a website. It's USUKnetwork.com. It is the home and hub of all things USUK. You can find amazing shows like this one, What's the Difference podcast with Alex Whiteley and Tom Bruno, where we bring on such amazing guests like Teneisha Collins, who is just really on the show. And what a fun interview that was. So if you like interviews, if you like real human conversations and people from all walks of life, that's what this show is. And that's what we give you every single week. We also have Wednesday Night Live every week, except last week where we took a break for once. And it's an amazing, fun show. We do a lot of different things. We kind of change it as we go. It's very fluid, very organic. We don't leave it as one thing. We do whatever we want on that show. We just bring people from the USUK and we interact with our fans. So if you want to talk to us, that's a good opportunity to do so. We do whatever we want on it, and it's a very fun thing to do. We also have Yelling at Clouds with the amazing Eric Pfluger. He is a prolific artist. You might recognize him from Hollywood Babylon fame or Smodcast with Kevin Smith. He's an amazing artist. You might see his work there. And he does a podcast with Mr. Alex Whiteley over here, where he basically rants and raves for a allotted amount of time and makes Alex and me feel like we don't know anything while he knows everything. It's such a good time. And that show is available on USUKnetwork.com. And all these things are available to you because we have good friends over at WebOrchard.com. WebOrchard.com, guys, WebOrchard.com is a website building company. That's what they do. They make you a website. So if you feel like your online presence needs to be stronger, reach out to WebOrchard.com. They will hook you up with a fantastic website and tell them that we sent you.
Yeah, say, oi, Alex Whiteley sent you. Bruno too. Yeah, give us a website.
Yeah, give us a website.
You'll know what you mean. You'll know what you mean. Right, guys, let's get out of here, man. I've been running around a prison all day. Tom's got shit to do with his family, and I'm going to go and watch a movie with the family. Right, we'll catch you guys next time. This has been What's the Difference podcast. I've been Alex Whiteley.
And I am Tom Bruno.
Peace out.
Hi, this is Ickis from RL Monsters. And I would like very much to ask you, if you don't mind, to watch the USUK network with Tom, Bruno, and Alex Whiteley. Oh, that's all. I have to go flush myself now.